Right, it's time for podcast number 7 already from Leogang we're talking about. And we've got our expert in-house e-bike wine expert and downhill expert, Steve Jones, talk about the happenings in Austria at the weekend.
Where did the wine come into that?
Are you more of an expert in wine or downhill?
Do we actually have to start with this? Are we actually rolling with this?
We're rolling. Let's talk about Leogang. There's always talk that it's easy, it's bike parky, but it's always good racing. I think you could hold the World Cup on any track. It's always going to be good racing.
Yeah, I think Leogang, it's not the rider's favourite, but definitely visually on TV, I think those guys have got it down with the footage, the camera angles. It's really engaging, and a track that's not maybe technically too challenging does provide for good footage, right?
Although, yeah, they freshened it up at the start, and I saw on Cathro Vision's practice video, people struggling straight away from the B practice as well, though. Coming straight out of the gate into brand new stuff that has no ruts in it. It's off camber. We used to see a lot of that. It reminded me of a lot of the old Alpine World Cups where it would look like a meadow, but actually it would be pretty technical because there'd be all sorts going on and it'd be fresh.
Yeah, I mean, and I sort of proved in the finals. I mean, the first few corners in the final were actually some of the most exciting parts of the whole race, right?
Right, yeah. People get sketchy.
Piron almost going over the bars. I mean, loads of people having trouble there. People getting their feet kicked off the pedals and stuff like that.
Tracy Hanna sort of clipped a pole in that one section that was a bit lower down in those stumps.
But isn't it funny though? Like the whole race came down to loads of people analysing a couple of corners on the whole hill. I mean, they were wondering about the exit speed about one particular corner before going into the jump section, and that a lot of people saying that was critical. I mean, if you think of some tracks where every single exit corner is important, but on Leogang is maybe one, which is a bit bananas, really.
Yeah, you carry speed for a long time, and it does remind me. It looks a little bit like downhill skiing to me. When you get on that motorway, it's super fast. It's funny coming into it. You saw Tracy Hanna; she had to pull really hard to clear a double, and actually in the men's race, they're all like pedaling through it. So like a BMX style. Manual with the pedals through the middle, super fast.
I tell you what was impressive, the way Gwyn scrubbed through some of those sections in the final.
Yeah.
But coming back to the highlights, I think, Don, the highlights of the whole race for the whole weekend, I think the closeness of the racing is always great at Leogang. The fact that Minar came back, he's 37 and he's like
38 now, actually.
38. The same age as you, right, Don?
Oh, wow, I'm 37.
Okay, you're becoming a wine expert next as well. Vergier coming off in the final. Rachel Atherton coming off in the final, and of course Finn Isles coming off in the final. So those, I think, would you say those are the main stories?
There's an awful lot going on, and we start talking about consistency because we're now on to round 3. It will become more important. We'll talk about the points a bit later on in the podcast,
But I think like wine, Don, like we talked about earlier, I think age. Let's talk age here. It's the age of the racer. I mean, Greg Minnaar, 38, right?
Yeah, but he's the oldest by a bit.
Right. And he actually won the World Cup Series as a teenager in 2001.
Yeah.
And we raced against him.
I was there then.
Yeah. We also raced against him in his first UK National. I think it was in North Wales in 1998, 99.
Paisley Bridge, wasn't it? That one.
Well, no, that was 2000. That was when Peter came off, right?
Yeah. Did he still win?
But talking about Paisley Bridge, and before Paisley Bridge was actually in Leith. That was his first, I guess.
Is that right?
Yeah, you came 12th, I came 13th.
Is that right? I don't remember that.
But anyway, right? He's 38, 37, 38. People talk about that's ridiculously old. But then you look at the likes of Roger Federer, 37, Serena Williams, 37. I think Kelly Slater is like 46 and still competing.
He is, yeah.
So it's,
Do you think
the world has changed, right?
What, do you think we'll see Minnaar at 46 racing downhill World Cup?
I don't know.
Probably
I got
not.
no idea.
Riding e-bikes, probably.
Yeah. But anyway, back to... he sneaks them in, doesn't he? He sneaks them in.
Well, let's go back to Leogang. So, I mean, it's always tight. And we saw it in qualifying. There was only 10 seconds between the first man and 60th place, or less than 10 seconds. So 10 seconds slower than the fastest qualifier, who was Greg Minnaar, and you're not qualifying. So there aren't many people, well, there's 60 in the world that can be as close as that. It's super, super tight.
Yeah, I mean, the win. So should we come on to the winning times later? I mean, the
Yeah.
podium this year was separated by 2.4 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually the closest podium of all time. The closest podium is
Right.
2014 when Josh Bryceland beat Greg Minnaar, and that was between first and fifth was 1.8 seconds.
That was Leo Gang as well.
This is Leo Gang.
Right.
This is the Leo Gang top fives. Obviously, there was the race, the most famous race of all time when
When
Gwyn.
Danny Hart won world champs.
No, we're talking Leo Gang, Don. Focus. The most famous Leo Gang race of all time has got to be Aaron Gwyn going chainless down there.
Yep.
And that's when he beat Conor Fearon by 0.04, 400ths of a second.
Got to be gutted with that, Fearon.
I know. And then the podium was separated by 1.9 seconds. When people talk about Leo Gang always being a close race, that's not actually the case. When Gwyn beat G. Atherton in 2011, 9 seconds separating the podium.
Yeah.
When Leo Gang was first raced, 2010, 6 seconds between when Greg Minnaar beat G. Atherton. And of course, Aaron Gwyn beat in Loris Vergier in 2016. The podium was separated by 7 seconds then. So it's not always a close race.
Yeah, true. Well, we saw Bruni come down. He put 3.2 into whoever it was.
I mean, that was it. It was game over, right?
You always think that, don't you? When it's that big a margin, you think,
Yeah.
won it. But
I mean, and you could see he was visibly quicker, right?
Yeah.
You could see those, like we talked about in Slovenia, you can just see those tyres pushing the edges a little bit more than the other riders. But there he is. Bruni's done it. He's now won 4 World Cup races. He's now the 3rd most successful French racer of all time, behind Voulios and Fabien Barel. And he's alongside Anne-Marie Piron in the standings. Obviously, they've won 4 apiece now. There's still a big step up between the likes of Hill and
True.
Peaty and stuff like
it
that.
feels like they're both early in their career, though. Piron feels especially because he's only just got used to winning last year. So I think there's plenty more to come from him.
Yeah, but you say early in the career? mean,
I know they're not that young.
25.
Oh, here we go. Jackson on the conversation. Bruni's 25.
I-
Piron's what? Piron's 24, 25?
Piron is same age, yeah.
Yeah.
But still early days. You said Minnaar didn't really start racking up his wins till later on.
He didn't start, he didn't start racking them up. I think he'd only won 4 by the time he was 26,
Yeah.
which is quite interesting.
And you said about Voulios winning.
And Voulios had retired at 26. But it's interesting. Warner said on the commentary that Minnaar's an old man in a sport that's getting younger. I'm not sure it is getting younger, to be honest. It depends. You've got to be very careful with the statistics and how you manipulate them.
I think he means
fake
the riders
news.
that are coming through are now getting are younger than him.
How can the riders come? I mean,
Well,
riders
no,
that are riders
they're
aging,
always gonna
juniors.
be younger, yeah. But like,
There was never a Junior World Cup back in the day, so that separates them up a little bit.
You'd have raced the Junior World Cup,
I
Don,
did
wouldn't you?
not ever win.
You would have done, though, wouldn't
I
you?
would have,
Yeah.
but it wasn't there when I was a youth.
No.
Anyway,
Now he's a fine vintage, isn't he, Jack?
yeah.
Well, I would say
it's
fine.
just a
Anyway, there
This
was
is not a dinosaur, eh, Jack?
yeah.
Yeah. That's another story.
There was still some. We're only a week after Fort William. There was some sore people, definitely. So Gwyn had a whopper of a crash.
Yeah.
He didn't seem too bad, apparently. I think it's just the original ankle injury was still hurting him more than anything.
Yeah,
but
no-
he got lucky at Fort William, really.
Yeah.
Anywhere. I mean, I've got scars in Fort William. There's very few places you get away
You've
with
got
a crash.
scars from life in general, Don.
I have, yeah. But there aren't many places on that track where you can have a crash like that and not seriously hurt yourself. And he managed it
Yeah.
somehow.
I think the Gwyn angle on Leo Gang is quite interesting, isn't it?
Where did he get his puncture? That
he's-
wasn't Leo Gang. You know the one where he also did. He didn't win it, but he did really well.
He did good
Yeah.
down it.
Was that Leo Gang?
Yeah,
he broke
but-
down on his rim.
But I think for Gwyn's been in heavy seas the last month. He's been struggling
has.
with lots of different stuff, and I'm really happy to see him come back and get a podium and be within a couple of seconds.
Yep.
He's reset now, and I'm sure he'll go away from Leo Gang and think, "Do you know what? Yeah, I've got the stormy waters behind me."
Does feel like that, doesn't it?
I think so, and maybe the same with Loic Bruni as well. I mean, he's gone down a couple of times. Piron's gone down.
So Bruni would have been feeling it from last week as well. That massive crash on that
yeah,
berm.
yeah.
You see, Reece Wilson obviously had that sort of shoulder barge at Fort William as well, so he was struggling. He's had a good year so far.
Yeah, but it's been a rough year for a lot of people, right?
Talking about people further down the food chain, the privateers, do you see that Windmasters has set up a privateers fund? Basically giving out money to the fastest privateer at every round of the World Cup downhill, but also selected Enduro World Series. And he was up to €11,290 donated on
Okay.
that from
Wow.
individuals and the industry getting behind it. So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Do you know, you talk about privateers, it's quite interesting that the women's, half the top 10 women's were privateer races.
I noticed that going through results, a lot
That's
of people without names,
Yeah.
teams next to their names.
And it's really nice to see a German talking about, you know, the Hoffman came
Nina,
second.
yeah.
Nina Hoffman came second on the women's. And, you know, if you look at the entry list, there's definitely there's not too many Germans riding World Cup downhill still. I think in the whole entry between the 160 riders started, I think there was like 8 German riders in the whole start list.
You're right. Even back in my day, there was Markus Klausmann, who raced
Yeah.
for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Who else, German-wise? I don't remember.
Well, Jürgen Benecke is probably the
Right,
most
yeah.
famous
Oh,
German
you go.
rider.
41st, Max Hartenstern, riding for Cube, a German
Yeah.
brand. It is surprising when the industry is massive in Germany and mountain bike scene is massive in Germany.
It is. I mean, I was in Freiburg last week, right? The amount of bikes there is insane.
Did you see?
It's crazy.
Saw lots of social stuff come out at the Winterberg
Yeah.
Festival as well. It's huge.
It is, yeah.
Got people like Fabio Widmer, obviously massive German stars, but
Yeah.
yeah, not massively in
But I
downhill.
mean, it's like, but racing is a big part of the German culture, but maybe, just, you know, not quite World Cup.
Yeah.
Going back in the countries, Don, there's been lots of talk about the French dominance recently.
You like
I'm
disproving facts, don't you?
Well, there has been a talk about the French, and definitely
they've
the
won.
French have been the force of the last few years.
They've
But
won-
let's put something in perspective.
They've won every World Cup this year. Men's
They have.
downhill.
And they've actually won 8 of the last 10 World Cup races,
Okay.
which is phenomenal.
Not in
However,
women- not in women's.
not in women's. We're talking men, we're talking women as well. When you look at the last decade of World Cup downhill racing, right? The last decade of World Cup in the men's class, America has 20 World Cup wins, Great Britain has 15, South Africa has 13, and France has 12. Now,
Well, you've got Aaron Gwynn, Great Britain, and Greg Minnar.
so basically, yeah, you've got Aaron Gwynn has won, in the last decade, Gwynn has won 20 races, Great Britain has won 15, but 5 riders have make up that number. South Africa 13, obviously Greg Minnar, and France, 6 riders have won 12 World Cups in the last 10 years. So that goes, you know.
How many in the last 5 years for France, though?
I mean, the last year.
Well, I was just going to say. Well, I did say that. So basically, 8 of the last 10 races, male races, have been won by French people. So France are definitely on the move, but in the bigger picture, in the last decade, they haven't really been there. So it's good. It's good to see them back. I think, and it's becoming again a French American thing, which we talked about from Maribor, didn't we?
We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we were talking about the previous French generation that was,
Yeah.
well, Gracia, Pascal, Vuriol's a bit further back.
Yeah. So now you like say Charlie Harrison, Gordon Norton.
Charlie Harrison's doing really well
Yeah,
this year.
definitely.
He finished 7th. Yeah, great ride from him. Ride for the Trek Factory Racing.
And what about the kids, Don? What about the youngsters coming through from the? You know, we're talking Finn Isles and your man. You're a big Matt Walker fan, I know, from Shropshire.
Yeah. Finished 13th.
Yeah.
Better than Finn Isles.
Yeah, Finn Isles went
Once
down.
again.
Finn Isles went down pretty hard, didn't he? Really?
He did.
Do you think those guys need to really get? I mean, they've both got podiums at World Cup senior level. Do you think they need to? They seem to be a little bit inconsistent with their runs at the minute, but that's what happens when you go from junior to elite, right?
Well, yes, but I was going to talk about Loris Vergier.
Right.
Because also slightly inconsistent. Super
Yeah.
fast, maybe a step up. Well, so
Yeah.
far, a step up on those guys, but not holding it together when it counts.
That was maybe a little bit of bad luck in that corner, though. I mean, loose gravel.
You make your own luck, Steve.
Oh,
That hurt me.
It's definitely a tough track, and it did look super loose. In fact, after qualifying, saw Rick McLaughlin does that qualifying thing now, and lots of the riders,
Big Rick.
Yeah, Big Rick. Was a lot of the riders were saying how loose it was and how much it changed since
Yeah.
practice as well, which you don't really. Wouldn't have thought that about Leo Gang. You think, oh, it's the track's track. And once it's ridden in our first day's practice, it doesn't change. But actually, they're all saying it did change quite a lot. Perion had a big crash in, I think it was the morning of the race, and hurt his knee, so
Yeah.
he wasn't riding that great.
I think there's also the changing conditions as well, isn't there? If you look, you can see visibly on the TV, riding in bright conditions, where you get a lot of reflection off the track, and you're going from bright light to dark woods. That must have been quite difficult to deal with. And then you saw some of the later riders actually went down, obviously when the sun was behind the clouds. Must have been
Can be really difficult, yeah. Especially you get a lot of photographers in the trees, and you get flashed occasionally, and that really doesn't help.
yeah.
I remember back.
Your voice experience coming
Voice
out.
experience.
The vintage is coming out.
I raced in 2000. I raced in Japan at the Arai Mountain,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there was a really.
Are you being
fast-
flashed?
Yeah, I got flashed. But there was a really fast bit coming into a ski piece. That honestly, like as fast as you've ever been on a downhill bike, and
Yeah.
you turned in. And there was a photographer leaning over the tapes, and I almost hit his camera, and I almost had like the fastest crash I've ever had, and I drifted.
And you've
wide
had some
in the
fast
tapes.
crashes,
I have
went
had some
down.
very fast ones, and it ruined my race run. In fact, it didn't ruin my race run.
Did it ruin your day, Don?
Snapping my gear cable at the start ruined my race run. It almost ruined my my elbows at least.
Wow. Were you surprised that Rachel, going over the bars, she doesn't often make mistakes,
Well,
Don? Does
she qualified second, which
Yeah.
was a bit of a surprise.
I thought I was surprised at that.
Tracy Anna said she had to change a lot from time training. So it then did surprise me that she crashed. But like you said, she must have been pushing. So
Yeah.
that's the way it goes sometimes. We don't often see her crashing like that.
But like Tracy's pulled out quite a gap now in the series standings.
It's also the first race she's won where Rachel has been in the start gate, which is quite surprising.
Right.
So that's her fourth World Cup win, but the first one where Rachel's ever been there racing, not injured or whatever.
Yeah, interesting.
In men's, going back to qualifying, Bruni qualified 11th, so disappointing result for him there.
Which he lost some points on that, didn't he? Really?
Well, we'll get into points later because
Yeah.
it's tight at the top, and
Yeah.
there's a couple of qualifying results that have cost Bruni a bit so far this year.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about juniors at all this year, but Valley Hall won the race by 18 seconds. Super impressive. That's
It's massive, isn't
the
it?
first one we've seen from her this year, really, and that would put her third in elite. The women's elite was a little bit messed up this week with Rachel crashing, and obviously Tane's still out and for the foreseeable future because she's had surgery now on that separated shoulder, so we don't know really when Tane's going to be back.
It's a great shame, isn't it?
Yeah. And junior men
Junior Ben, Thibaut Daprala.
riding the Commensal.
Yeah.
Another win.
Another win. You got the Brit Jamie Edmondson came fourth there.
Yeah, good result.
But yeah, again, another French rider coming through. Commensal doing well. I mean, things move to Val Nord
Yeah, next round.
next round in 2 weeks' time. I can that's going to probably be down to the likes of Bruni, Brosnan, Vergier, and Piron, right? And Danny Hart.
Danny Hart's been consistent this year.
Yeah.
So in the women's race, Kate Weatherly was a couple of best ever results here. So Nina Hoffman in second place, the German rider. Kate Weatherly, the Kiwi rider, in third place. Marine Cabarou did have a bit of a crash, and obviously Rachel had that big crash, so she finished last. So points aren't looking that great.
Marine Cabarou crashed and still came fifth.
Cabarou, yeah, crash still came fifth. No, fourth, in fact.
Yeah, and it's, it was in 9 seconds, so she could have been on for the win, right?
Yeah, she.
I always used to think, a normal crash will cost you about 10 seconds. It obviously depends, how fast you're going and where it is. But yeah, I think anything that close is going to be very close to winning it. Rach Atherton hands over the number one plate to Tracy Hanna
Yeah.
on the Polygon UR team.
And how are we looking on the men's, Don?
What for the overall?
Yeah.
We're getting into the actual results of the day. Did you see Sean McCarroll was in the results sheet? Sean McCarroll predates me. in the world of
wanted
down.
man.
Yeah.
You qualified.
I think he did.
No, he didn't qualify.
Ah.
He didn't qualify. He didn't qualify.
Who's he ride for?
I guess he rides for himself, I would think.
Good point. Let's just.
He used to be a giant rider back in the day, didn't he? He's a wild man on a bike, super tall. I remember him throwing that ATX Warner. Was it ATX 1, the one that Warner rode?
Yeah. Yeah,
Good
the
rider.
picture of a lot of them in that caravan roof, the giant advert.
Vaguely. In the men's, Jure Zabiek, who was injured last year, is now going super well this year. So the Slovenian rider finished 10th place. That's a serious result, only 3.5 seconds away from the win. Charlie Harrison, like we said, 7th place. Bernard Kerr put in a good run.
He was fastest on loads of sections, right? Jack?
Yeah, in the woods, fast in the woods.
Yeah.
Laurie Greenland, 2 crashes. not a brilliant year.
Bernard crashed at the top, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Laurie's not having such a good year, is he, really?
Well, he's in 15th, so it's pretty good, but it's not as good as
Yeah.
we'd expect, really. He's had an 8th, a 17th, and now a 48th.
Yeah.
Bit of a shame.
What happened to Adam Brayton and Kel Seagrave, Jack? Do you know?
Kyle Seagrave, I saw a big crash.
Yeah. On that corner, which was analysed.
Yeah.
I think Fedus and Ben Castro on Pink Bike did a really good
absolutely, yeah.
analysis of the corner.
And did you see, well, Bruni needed to find a lot of time. And he said he watched Cathro's video from practice.
Really?
And he found a lot of time.
Wow, because it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, that exit of the route section.
Yeah.
And it still blows my mind that it all comes down to from what we understand, it comes down to one corner. I'm still trying to look for Sean McCarroll's result. Now he's thrown that curveball at me.
Whilst you're doing that, Henri Pirion finished in 6th. So it's good, still good points for him. He'd want for more, but I think his knee was pretty hurt, so not great. Loris Verger was looking really good for the podium and crashed right at the end.
Sean McCarroll came 129th.
129th.
Sorry,
Bit of a shame.
you could have beamed about it about that.
So Vergier, again, his consistency not so good. Crashed right at the end. Finished only 6 seconds down. So you wonder what could have been for Loris.
Yeah.
How's he looking in the overall so far? He is 6th place.
Yeah.
So he's had a 41st, a 3rd, and an 11th. It's pretty crazy. He can still be in 6th.
Hold
with
on.
41st.
Hold on a minute. Say that again.
He is in 6th place with a 41st, a 3rd, and an 11th.
He's in 6th place.
297 points.
Oh, no, I'm looking at the standings
He's
here.
also qualified first twice.
Qualified
Exactly.
first. No, he's qualified first at Fort William, where he got 50 points, and that's qualified second this weekend. Let's talk about it. So, Loic Bruni won the race,
Yeah,
and he's in 2nd place, only 5 points behind Troy Brosnan.
yeah, so Bruni's at a 1st, a 10th, and a 1st.
Yeah, so
That's actually blown my mind, the fact that Verger's at a 41st, a
I know.
11th, and a 3rd, and he's in 6th place.
Well, look where Minara is.
Minar's in 5th place.
Minar is in 5th place, yeah.
With
Minar's had a
0
60
points.
a 65th, a 6th, and a 2nd.
Yeah, 0 points at the first round, of course.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's very, very rare that someone who wins 2 World Cups does not go on to win the series.
Well, at the moment, as it stands,
Danny Hart.
had Bruni didn't score any points in qualifying at Fort William. Had he scored virtually any, he'd be leading.
Yeah. But
Well,
that,
5
it is,
points.
but it is super tight on between Brosnan in 1st on 520 and Minar in 5th on 321. That's just 200 points. But it's top 4, isn't it? It's Brosnan, Bruni, Piron, and Hart. That's going to be the fight till the finish.
Is
I
this
think.
Danny Hart's most consistent year? It's one that I can think of. He's had a 2nd, a 5th, and a 4th.
I can't remember what was he like when he won his 3 World Cups in 2016.
He had a bad start to the year, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But Greg Minnar, big story. The comeback. Can we call it a comeback?
yeah,
But I think the worst time you can ever not qualify is at the first round of the year, because that can really affect your confidence. But it doesn't seem to have done anything to him.
no. I mean, here is. I mean, it's just one of the most amazing results, isn't it? I think absolutely. Can you imagine you heard Warner was absolutely. I think Warner was convinced.
Yeah.
Warner's convinced that Minard won that one.
Yeah. But not to be, but
Not
very,
to be.
very close. So in the women's, like I said, Tracy Hannah has got the overall at 50 points over Rach. So it's a decent margin. There's only 40 points between 1st and 2nd on the race. Obviously, you've got to throw in the qualifying scores as well to get some
Yeah.
points. But that's probably going to go on all year. It'll be between those two, I'm thinking, even though actually Nina Hoffman's only 25 points behind Rach, and she has been consistent so far. you've got to think probably it's going to be a race between Rach and Tracy.
I think so. I mean, Rachel going after her her 7th World Cup Series title, and of course after the number of wins by Anne-Caroline Chausson, was it 44?
Yeah.
Rachel's on 38.
But not a great weekend for the Atherton team. Where we was talking about this, I think G was down in 39th, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, 39th place.
Which
Still
is a
protected.
shock because he won Fort William, British national,
Yeah,
and he did win it, didn't he?
I did. Yeah, we don't know. There could have been a story there that we didn't see, but I don't.
Really?
know.
What do you mean?
Well, he could have had a crash or something at this round. I mean,
Yeah,
not
okay,
for-
right.
Charlie Hatton came 20 something, didn't he?
Did he? So yeah.
And on to Andorra.
How long we got there? We've got a few weeks, have we?
Yeah, I'd expect Andorra. Gwyn will be back on it, but I think Andorra's got. I think it's got Brosnan, Vergier, Hart, or Bruni's name on it, right?
Well, last year, Tarney Seagrave won, Rach second, Tracy Hannah third.
I should get this info so quickly.
I've got it written down. And Loris Vergier won. Pirion was second
Yeah,
in front of the Commensal team, of course, who are based in Valnord or in
Yeah.
Andorra.
finishes just outside their cafe.
Yeah, Brooke McDonald. Oh, it's good, that cafe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad. Good wine there.
Yeah.
Vintage.
Brooke McDonald third place. What's Brooke doing this year? Let me have a look.
Well, Brooke was
11th
up,
place.
wasn't he? Brooke was up on the splits, I think, at one point in Leogang.
He's had a 13th, an 8th, and a 14th this year. So the big one inconsistent one there looks like Finn Isles. So he's had a 25th, a 4th, and a 29th. But like you say, that might be the youth. That does happen.
And your man Matt Walker's had a 7th, a 7th, and a 15th, which is actually pretty consistent.
It is.
That's
For
not too
seventh
bad, is it?
overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, those big sort of outliers are really Loris Vergier and Minar with their sort of really bad scores at one round and then scoring really, really well at the others.
Yeah.
But we have another 5 rounds to go. So
Great.
actually, I've forgotten there was that many, to be fair. Val Nord, and then you got Leger the week after, talking about old school Alpine tracks.
Jay. Crikey, Don, that's one of your best World Cup results, right? When
That
you 8th,
was-
weren't you then?
Was
10th?
not. That was. I've got a few good Leger stories. Some of them include racing.
Yeah,
Maybe
close race.
we should have started the podcast with this bit.
I tried.
Here we go.
Tried to qualify my first ever World Cup, and I snapped my chain out the gate.
Here we go, another one.
I got told off.
So let's make a list now, Jack. So your shifter, chain, cameraman flashing. There's always something with a Don.
Andy
in there.
Kiffin told me off.
Right.
He was Steve's mechanic and helped me out at the time. Said I should check my chain, every single link of it at the time. And I thought he was being ridiculous until a few years later. And I thought, actually, he's probably right.
But didn't you? I'm sure you came top 10 in
I
Leger.
have
Oh,
done
was that
all
the
right.
World Championships?
Yeah, I qualified 6th at World Champs
Right,
and
there you
then
go.
crashed. And I was 10 seconds off.
What was that? Was
Fabian's
that
winning time.
was that the colour of paint on your tyres? What was the excuse there?
I don't know. That one caught me out of the blue.
Didn't
that
like your
crash.
skin suit? Because you were wearing a skin suit then, Don.
I would have been, yeah.
We haven't talked skin suits or any tech from this week's race.
Well, they're virtually wearing skin suits anyway, aren't they?
pretty
now?
much, yeah.
But I think it looks cool. I think Daniel looks cool with the kit they've got.
I think the kit does look pretty good at the minute.
Vergier's kit.
I still don't like Bruni's kit. I like Vergier's kit's cool. That's the old Moto.
What's Jack's verdict? I mean, Jack is obviously the fashion man here. Jack, what's your verdict
I'm
on?
not a fashion man.
No, would you not be wearing those zebra pants?
It's not.
I can see you clubbing in those, Jack.
I think the Bruni trousers are the worst thing. They're short trouser looking things look terrible. But I mean, rainbow stripes always look pretty good.
Yeah. What about bikes? Looks like we're settled now. Looks like
Has Bruni been doing anything with his wheels, or has he stayed on the small back?
he's probably been checking them.
You would have probably thought that would be the one, maybe Leo Gang for big wheels both end if he was
Yeah.
going to do it.
Yeah. So when Vergier won last year in Andorra, was he on 29?
Yeah, it would have been.
Was
yeah.
he? Yeah.
Must have been, surely.
And because like that, I think that's where the big discussion is Andorra, because it's flat at the top and then it's super steep.
Well, Andorra tough and gnarly.
Yeah.
Leger, pretty good the whole way down.
Leger has
Technical.
got to be.
It's old school. It's fast. It's
Yeah.
rooty. It's woody. It's alpine pistes. Val de Sol is just horrible, steep. Hated riding
It's
that
not.
place.
It's not steep though. Vallis Hall is not a steep
It
track.
flipping is.
It's not. Honestly, it's not steep. I think the lower part of Andorra is steeper than
Okay.
any of Val di
The
Sol.
big thing with Val di Sol, maybe it wasn't steep, but it was just there weren't many turns. You were always going down the fall line, and there was no rest, and there was horrible rocks and roots that you couldn't see everywhere.
because
So
of the deep dust.
it always felt like you were always going to hit something and have a massive crash because you couldn't
Yeah,
see it,
yeah,
and you're going down the fall line a lot.
yeah.
Lenzerheide, that's fairly direct. Yeah, I kind of like watching it, but it doesn't look like a good track to ride.
Oh, it makes me think that that loose gravel.
Yeah,
But Minar is king on stuff like that, isn't he? He
Yeah.
knows exactly how much to push it on a short track as well.
and the last round is in the USA. Been a while. Snowshoe, which I know absolutely nothing about,
Right.
but it's shaping up for a good year.
Well, Don, you're only 37. You can still go and race World Cups. Get yourself over there.
I couldn't think of anything more challenging and less rewarding.
Nicely dodged on the words there.
It's been 10 years since I raced a World Cup, and not one part of me wants to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But I like watching it. I'm a big fan now.
Yeah, me too. And so the show goes on to Andorra.
It does. Something I want to mention before we finish this week's podcast is that we popped up on Apple iTunes as new and noteworthy. I don't know if we were just new and not noteworthy, but it seems to work quite well. So the numbers are going very nice as well. So thanks for listening. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify is our next biggest, and a few other podcast providers, and of course on YouTube if you want to watch it there. There's a link down below on YouTube over to Win Masters' GoFundMe thing for the privateers. So definitely worth throwing a bit of cash that way if you can.
Nice. Well done. It's been nice chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for Andorra. I absolutely cannot wait for it.
7th
So
of July.
exciting.
You're going to have to wait
So exciting.
3 weeks
go.
away.
Huh?
Are we going?
I don't know.
I'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
I got to go next week, actually.
Go and put a time in, see how you fare.